Hey, welcome to our viewers. And Rin, thanks so much for coming in to talk to us today.
My pleasure.
Patient that I've worked with during your pregnancy. How about just give us a quick background on kind of where you are now, when you came in to see me, the problems you were having?
Okay, so right now I'm 35 weeks as of yesterday with
so
my
you're close.
First pregnancy. Yes, very exciting. And what developed for me to come and see you was around 26, 28 weeks. I noticed that I was having this pain in my tailbone, and I wasn't sure why. I didn't necessarily attribute it to being pregnant, since I'm very unaware of all the different things that associate with that. And so I kind of just tried to ignore it, and it just continued to grow and grow. So I thought, okay, so maybe this does have to do with the baby. So I saw my OBGYN, and she suggested that I try some support. So I went to the store and I bought a single wrap support that not only did not help, but actually was very uncomfortable, would make a tourniquet when I would sit down. So I took that back to the store. And then I bought another one that had numerous different pieces that would wrap around, and then had a top band and a bottom band. And that did nothing to help with the pain and was also uncomfortable. So I took that back. So at this point I was almost ready to give up, but the pain was continuing to grow. So it had gone from my tailbone hurting to coming up around my groin, and then it started shooting down my left leg. And when it started coming down my left leg, it was so painful that I was having problems walking, I was having trouble getting dressed, I was having trouble doing my job. And I just was like, I cannot live like this. And then I missed a vacation I was supposed to go on because I was having so much pain walking.
And that's where you draw the line.
Exactly.
Right? Forget it, man. That's too much.
At that point, I was like, I'm not doing this for the rest of my pregnancy. I just can't. And so even though I was a little nervous and a little hesitant to get more help for it, I went back to my OBGYN, and she recommended that I come and see you.
Yeah, you know, just hearing you say that, and I'm so glad that you kind of just pushed the process a little farther. You know, those symptoms you described to me are things I hear every day. And, you know, when push comes to shove, there are some very straightforward issues that crop up with the developing pregnancy. And as, you know, as we found in working with you, it's really pretty straightforward. And if you know what you're doing, there are some very simple steps you can take to get tremendous relief.
Yeah.
How about, if you wouldn't mind, hand me the model there. I want to just show in a little more detail kind of what this fundamentally is. I'm going to straighten the spine out here.
Which is awesome, because I had no idea. I didn't know if it was just specific to me and it was weird and unusual. And when you had told me that it was fairly common, I was very surprised.
Yeah, you know, and it's really, there is a natural stable position for the pelvis, and it's really when the pelvic bones are in their upright position. What happens is the ligaments actually draw the pelvic joints together. So you can talk about the joints on the backside, you can actually talk about the pubic bone in the front. It actually affects the stability of the low back, the hips, and the legs. So as long as that pelvis is able to stay in its upright position, you're going to do well. And the issue that I get with almost all of my patients who come in with pain in pregnancy, and this was certainly the case with you, is it's a combination of the pregnancy hormones loosening up your ligaments and the baby's weight starting to front load on the pelvis. And what we'll see is with the baby's weight coming down on the front, if those pelvic bones start to tip and rock forward, and I'll use the baby's weight coming down on the pubic bone here as an example. When those pelvic bones start to tip and rotate forward, that's what disrupts the alignment of the pelvic joints. That's what affects the low back. That's what affects the hips and the legs. And so the whole game, if you're trying to relieve back pain in pregnancy, is to try to get those pelvic bones to reset back in their upright position. That, you know how we started out with that very specific, and this is when you start talking about pelvic tilt exercises. We did that very specific pelvic tilt exercise with you to start. And I like to start with that because it's so straightforward, and it's really, you know, the first thing you need to do is you need to get your pelvis back in its upright position. Why don't you talk a little bit about just your experience when we took you through that exercise?
Okay, well, like I had said, I was a little nervous. I had never been to a physical therapist before, but I was willing to try anything. And so when you were like, we're going to try this one exercise, I was like, okay, one exercise. Let's try it. It didn't seem like one thing could help alleviate all of my symptoms. And so you took me through it, and it was very simple and easy and wasn't stressful or anything like that, very comfortable. And it was almost immediate relief. I went home and told my husband it was like magic. I was really surprised that just that one exercise made such a big difference.
Right, and you know, just one subtle thing when we're talking about the exercise is if you go online and you start looking up, you know, pregnancy exercises, there's this whole battery of pelvic tilt exercises, and it's usually a woman lying on her back and just gently rocking those pelvic bones back. And they're moving in the correct direction, but what I've found over the years is that's not really powerful enough to actually reset that upright pelvis. And so the exercise we're talking about, and we'll give a link to the exercise when we're done with the interview.
Oh, nice.
You really need to, so it's almost like if you're going to do it, you got to do the right exercise. And so that's really the difference with that. And then, you know, talk a little bit about when you came back to see me the second time, if you will, the good and the bad with what was happening with you.
Okay, so I came back and saw you about a week later, and the wonderful thing is that I was walking, that I was able to go back to my normal routine and my normal function, and that my pain had significantly decreased. So I was thrilled. The bad part is that I would do the exercise in the morning and the evening. But in the morning I would feel great, and as the day progressed, the pain would start coming back, my walk would start to change again, and so by the end of the day I was just having a lot of problems, and so I would feel like I would have to constantly do this exercise again and again, which sometimes is not very practical during your day.
Sure.
And so I was concerned that I wasn't able to maintain the way I felt right after the exercise throughout my whole day.
Yeah, you know, and what I find in working with my patients, it's about a 50-50 proposition. So about half of the women I work with will come back and tell me, man, if I can get one good round in the morning, I get one good round in the evening, I can sustain that all day, and they're very happy. That's really all they need to do, and it's so simple.
Yeah.
In your case, it was obviously a little bit more complicated, and I will see this in about the other 50% of my patients. When that happens, what that is, Ren, is it's just that your joints have become a little bit too unstable. So this is the third trimester, the pregnancy hormones. There's a lot of different things that can feed into this. A lot of times, if you're having more than one baby, if it's twins, you just have more force. If it's your second or third pregnancy, your body has cycled through previous pregnancies. There's a lot of factors that can contribute to this, but when it behaves that way, it's just the joints are not stable enough, so you get those great angles when you go through and reset the joints, and then as you're flowing through your day, what happens is the pelvic bones start to torque forward again, you lose the alignment in the joints, and then the pain comes back. And you know, this is the reason why you had mentioned at the beginning you did not have success with that traditional maternity support.
Not at all.
I've seen this for years trying to help my patients, and there was a point where I got very frustrated because when somebody would become unstable like this, there was really not a lot of options for us, even as therapists, to do something that would actually work. And so this is where a few years ago, along with a woman's fashion designer named Jessica St. Marie, we sat down and we really tried to completely redesign the maternity support. And this is MaternaLIFT is the result of this effort. So why don't you talk a little bit about when you came back that second session, and I had suggested that you try the MaternaLIFT because the pain was coming back during the day.
Okay, so when you first suggested the MaternaLIFT and another support, I was like, yay, another support. Exactly, because I was already used to the failures that I had. And so I was hesitant, but I really wanted to have relief. So I was like, okay, I will try it. So I took it home with me, and it was wonderful. I was very surprised. First putting it on, it was very comfortable. It didn't show through my clothes, which were some of the concerns that I had. It was very easy to put on and off. And then as the day would progress, I was still doing my exercises in the morning and the evening, but then I would still have that relief throughout the whole day. And when I first put it on, I couldn't necessarily feel the difference, but when I took it off, I felt it right away. I was like, oh, I felt the loss of the support.
Right.
And so then I started getting kind of cocky because I'd worn it for a little while. I was feeling really great. I was like, okay, everything is resolving itself. Obviously, it's me. And so I had a couple days where I decided not to wear it. And like almost right away, my walk started changing and the pain was starting to creep back up throughout the day. And people in my life were noticing the change in my walk as the day progressed. And so obviously that was not going to work, and the MaternaLIFT was doing a lot more for me than I was giving it credit for. And so once I started wearing it again daily, I have not missed a day since, and I'm 35 weeks now, so it has really been amazing for me.
Yeah, and just you realize how proud that makes me to hear you say that, man, because the advantage we really had when we designed the support is I was seeing patients throughout. And we had several patients actually help us, so we would play with the design a little bit, and then we would have patients actually wear the support and then give us feedback. So there were several modifications over time. I thought it was going to be easy. It wasn't. It really took an extended period of time and a real concerted effort. But over time we were able to really refine the design so that it really does support the upright pelvis. That's what provides the relief, and it is comfortable to wear. So it was a lot of work, but just to hear that from you, of what it did for you, that's what it's all about. I mean, that's why we did this. And just to kind of summarize what we're talking about with this is, if you are developing back pain in pregnancy, I want your mindset to be, just assume right off the bat that what you're really talking about is that your pelvic bones are not holding their upright position. They're being tipped and rotated forward. Usually it's by the baby's weight, but I have some patients come into me in the first trimester, I don't even know, you wouldn't even be able to tell they were pregnant, and just because of the ligaments getting so loose from the hormones. So it can happen at any time. I think the first line of defense is that very specific, more powerful pelvic tilt exercise, because again, a lot of times that's all you need. It's free, it's easy, it's a great place to start. If your pain tends to come back with activity, as was the case for you, I think we've established MaternaLIFT is probably a better option than a traditional maternity support.
This traditional support was not even an option for me.
Yeah.
It was horrible, and the MaternaLIFT has been awesome. You can tell all of the thought and the work that went into it because it works. Yeah. And speaking to the viewer, I would encourage you to talk directly with your healthcare practitioner to start. If they're not familiar with the corrective exercise or the MaternaLIFT, have them give them a link to the video and let them take a look at it themselves. Set up a care plan with your practitioner, but I hope it really is focused on supporting the upright pelvis, because that's where the relief is. Yeah, and it's made a huge difference in my pregnancy.
Okay.
Huge difference.
Thanks so much for coming in today, Ray.
Oh, it's my pleasure.
So good luck with your birth.
Thank you so much. I can't wait.
Okay. Fantastic.